This is CBN NewsWatch.
It is Wednesday, February 24th, 2021. I'm Ephraim Graham. Ahead today, censorship against conservatives and Christians. That's what some critics are saying as Democrats are set to hold a hearing today dealing with three major TV news outlets. And a major cable channel suddenly cancels a Christian ministries program. Why wasn't Capitol Hill protected before the riot on January 6th? We're going to hear what people in charge of security told Congress. And how does Israel plan to protect itself against the potential threat of nuclear weapons from Iran? We're going to bring you some answers from Jerusalem. And a calling from God, why one nurse has been traveling from hospital to minister to those suffering from COVID-19. All those stories and more are ahead in this edition of CBN NewsWatch. I want to begin this half hour with a congressional virtual hearing on the news media today, as a subcommittee will look into what it calls disinformation and extremism in the media. Two Democratic congressmen said in a statement the prolonged severity of the COVID-19 pandemic and the attack on our Capitol on January 6th have driven home a frightening reality. The spread of disinformation and extremism by traditional news media presents a tangible and destabilizing threat. Two California Democratic members of Congress recently sent a letter to major TV carriers like AT&T, Verizon, Comcast, Cox, and others, asking, are you planning to continue carrying Fox News, Newsmax, and OANN1 America news networks on UVerse, DirecTV, and AT&T, both now and beyond any contract renewal date? If so, why? The lawmakers claim that those three channels carried misinformation about the 2020 election, and many Democrat lawmakers think the rioters who stormed the Capitol building on January 6 were directly influenced by these three media outlets. Fox responded, telling the Washington Examiner, for individual members of Congress to highlight political speech they do not like and demand cable distributors engage in viewpoint discrimination sets a terrible precedent. And Newsmax told Politico the House Democrats' attack on free speech and basic First Amendment rights should send chills down the spines of all Americans. The president of the nonprofit Media Institute said the California Democrats' letter was an attempt by government officials to try to chill free speech of certain news outlets. For ongoing coverage of this story, be sure to visit cbnnews.com. Meanwhile, D. James Kennedy Ministries program Truths That Transform is no longer on the Lifetime channel. The cable channel told the ministry it would no longer air programming that addressed issues like abortion or left-wing investor George Soros. Lifetime's sudden decision came after 3 years during which it aired Truths That Transform's show on those topics and others. Frank Wright, the president and CEO of D. James Kennedy Ministries, wrote in the Christian Post, at the same time, the Lifetime channel is giving us the back of their hand. We're receiving reports from others in the community of Christian broadcasters that other major cable television channels and networks are canceling entire blocks of religious programming. Wright said the ministry would not bow to cancel culture. Missed intelligence was to blame for the defenders' failure to anticipate the violent mob that invaded the U.S. Capitol on January 6th. That was the message from officials who were in charge of security that day. And they were on the hot seat Tuesday in the first public hearing about what happened during the riot. CBN national security correspondent Eric Phillips brings us the story now from Washington.
The hearing boiled down to three main themes: intelligence, preparedness, and response time. One witness flatly said he was surprised by the response, or lack thereof. These images remain burned into the memories of Americans, perhaps even more so for those in this room, many living through the attack as it happened.
We need to know, was there credible intelligence about potential violence? When was it known, and who knew it?
On the hot seat, the former U.S. Capitol Police Chief, along with the former sergeants at arms of both the House and Senate. Each resigned after the riots, with the chief now saying he regrets doing so. Also appearing before the Senate panel, the acting chief of the D.C. Metropolitan Police Department. Three themes resonated repeatedly. First, the insufficient intelligence leading up to January 6th.
We properly planned for a mass demonstration with possible violence. What we got was a military-style coordinated assault on my officers and a violent takeover of the Capitol building.
Based on the intelligence, we all believed that the plan met the threat and that we were prepared. We now know that we had the wrong plan.
Then a general issue with preparedness.
No civilian law enforcement agency, to include the United States Capitol Police, is trained or equipped to repel an insurrection of thousands of individuals focused on breaching a building at all costs.
Thirdly, response. Acting Police Chief Robert Conti told the committee that D.C. Metro Police could not respond until he got the request from U.S. Capitol Police.
The mob's sustained assault on the Capitol precipitated an equally unprecedented response, with then Capitol Police Chief Steve Sund issuing an urgent request for MPD to come assist in defending the Capitol.
He says his force responded immediately, but he questions the sluggishness in requesting National Guard help.
I was surprised at the reluctance to immediately send the National Guard to the Capitol grounds.
Today will not be the last time lawmakers study what happened before, during, and after the siege. In fact, next week they will hear from representatives from federal agencies like the FBI, Department of Homeland Security, and Department of Defense to find out more on intelligence matters and response time. Eric Phillips, CBN News.
He's had a career filled with remarkable comebacks, but now golf legend Tiger Woods could be facing his toughest recovery of all. Woods was driving through a sweeping downhill stretch of road through the coastal suburbs of Los Angeles when his SUV struck a sign, crossed over a raised median and two oncoming lanes before falling down an embankment, traveling hundreds of feet and landing on its side. The first person on the scene, Deputy Carlos Gonzalez, didn't recognize Woods at first, but he said Woods was, quote, lucid and calm.
The fact that he was wearing a seatbelt, I would say that it greatly increased the likelihood that it saved his life. I asked him what his name was. He told me his name was Tiger, and at that moment I immediately recognized him.
Woods underwent a long surgical procedure afterward as the crash caused significant injuries down his right leg. Woods has already had 5 back surgeries, and some question if he will be able to play again. He's gotten many well wishes and prayers from fellow athletes, celebrities, and former presidents Obama and Trump. Coming up, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu making it clear Israel will do everything it can to see that Iran does not gain nuclear weapons. We're going to talk about that threat from Iran and what Israel might do when we come back.
When I came to Regent University, it's like the world opened up. I felt like I needed to advance my career and go back to school. Regent was a perfect fit for me. The Regent professors are world class. You are equipped. The focus of the faculty is on each individual student, whether it's online or in person. You become a part of Regent's family. You carry with you not just the content and the knowledge, but the confidence to understand that we can be significant in the world.
Regent University. Follow your path.
Nigerian Christians
in Iran are routinely arrested.
Catholic Christians continue to suffer.
In times of trial and affliction, you need to know the truth.
One of the fastest growing Christian populations in the world.
Join Wendy Griffith and George Thomas for Christian World News.
Young people are the ones who are open to the gospel.
Powerful stories of suffering and hope that affect all Christians. Watch Christian World News, Saturday at 5 p.m.
Get Protect Your Sleep and discover how to improve the quality of your life. A free DVD or booklet from the Christian Broadcasting Network.
If you're not a great sleeper, you can do things to make yourself a great sleeper. If you're already a pretty good sleeper, you can enhance your sleep and be even better.
5 leading experts help remove the obstacles between you and restorative sleep.
When you don't get a restful night's sleep, you wake up with an accumulation of stress.
Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to CBN.com to get your free DVD or booklet today.
Everything you do better with a good night's sleep.
You'll discover how food affects your sleep, how to put insomnia to rest, explore effective remedies for sleep apnea, and much more in Protect Your Sleep. Wake up to your best life and get Protect Your Sleep today. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to CBN.com to get your free DVD or booklet.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is making clear he is not depending on the Iran nuclear deal. Netanyahu said Tuesday Israel will do everything it can to make sure Iran doesn't get nuclear weapons. With us now from Jerusalem to look at this potential crisis is CBN News Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell. So, Chris, how serious is the concern if Iran does develop nuclear weapons, it would actually use them against Israel?
Well, Ephraim, Israel is taking it very seriously. First of all, you have to look at the Iranian rhetoric. For years, they've been talking about wiping Israel off the map. They've been talking about death to Israel. So they have the motivation to use a nuclear bomb, and now they're looking to get the capability. Now, Ephraim, even if they don't use the bomb, that would really hold like a leverage over Israel and the whole region and keep them hostage. So they're taking it very, very seriously here. Not only Netanyahu, but the IDF chief of staff, the foreign minister just declared today that because they are refusing to limit access or limiting access to the IAEA, he says that is an intent to get a nuclear weapon.
Chris, Israel has practiced military strikes against Iran. What would it take for them to actually launch such a strike?
Well, first of all, Ephraim, you have to see it's a very big logistical challenge. You know, Iran is hundreds of miles away, a long way, and they have multiple sites in their nuclear program. So one of the questions they have to get, how do these airplanes, these warplanes that Israel would be sending, how do they get back? They'll need refueling. Now, this is something a lot of people may not understand, but Azerbaijan, which is on the other side of Iran, they could use that as a base. Azerbaijan, even though it's a Muslim country, is an ally with Israel. And you would think they would use their entire arsenal, their entire Air Force. Just the other day, they had the Rose of Galilee exercise, and what that did was that they struck 3,000 theoretical targets against Hezbollah in 24 hours. So they're going to use everything they have if they're going to attack Iran's nuclear program. For Israel, it's a matter of survival. They see Iran nuclear program as an existential threat.
So what about the rest of the Middle East? Is it possible that other countries, maybe even Muslim ones, would join Israel in taking action against Iran?
Well, it's a great question, and you have to speculate. I'm not sure they would actually be directly involved, but I think they would lend logistical and intelligence support. You would think that they would allow Israel to use their airspace, and that would include the UAE, Saudi Arabia. And Ephraim, you know, one time we've talked about the Abraham Accords a lot in the last several months, but they weren't just about peace, but they were also about war, because the allies of Israel, the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, the Gulf states, they all see Iran as a mortal enemy. We were there in September of 2019 when Iran attacked one of Saudi Arabia's largest oil refineries, so they understand that Iran poses a mortal danger to them as well.
Does the Israeli government believe the Biden administration would stand behind Israel if there was a military confrontation with Iran?
It's an excellent question, but there's nothing public right now. But you have to realize that the U.S. and Israel are pulling in different directions right now. The U.S. is, according to Israel, paving the way to get a nuclear bomb because by going into the Iranian nuclear program, while Israel is doing what they can to prepare stopping that bomb. So it's unknown whether or not the United States would try to stop Israel if they actually decide to attack Iran. You have to believe there's a lot of going back and forth in the back channels between the U.S. and Israel right now.
All right, Chris Mitchell, Middle East Bureau Chief, thank you so much for your time. Still ahead, the singer and songwriter who blessed us with Good, Good Father has been at work on new music for the last 2 years. He's sharing the story behind that music when he takes the seat in Studio 5, and we'll have the story right here next on CBN NewsWatch.
Come home to the sounds of Southern Gospel from CBN Radio. You'll enjoy a rich Southern blend of bluegrass, classic gospel, and Southern gospel favorites like the Gaithers, the Crabb Family, and bluegrass sounds like Mountain Faith. So make yourself at home with the all-new CBN Southern Gospel. Now available at cbnradio.com.
It's about the competition.
I kind of put that pressure on myself, and I think people had expectations.
It's about overcoming.
We use this phrase all the time, keep chopping, keep practicing hard.
It's about going the distance.
You know, I think as a father, it's my job, to lead. Just be the best husband and father I can be.
Watch Going the Distance with Sean Brown Saturday night at 7:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
Worship leader and recording artist Pat Barrett gave us the unforgettable song, Good, Good Father. And this week he has some new music to share. It's his sophomore solo project, and it's called Act Justly, Love Mercy, Walk Humbly.
And it all comes down to this, what you require of me, love my neighbor as myself, and you above all things. Act justly, love mercy, walk humbly with you, God.
So this album was in the making for 2 years?
Unfortunately. Yeah. I remember the feeling of 2 years ago being like, oh, there's a couple songs I'd really like to share. And then, as time went on and the world changed, so did songs and what felt like really important to sing about and share. And so I'm actually now really happy. There were moments in those 2 years where you're like, why can't this be done yet? And then now I'm so happy for the songs that, happened actually near the end.
The project is called Act Justly, Love Mercy, Walk Humbly. What are some of the singles that came towards the end of the project?
Well, funny enough, that song. Throughout the 2 years, I was like, what am I even going to call this collection of songs? I can't do another self-titled album, can I? Just don't name it again? Or, what I loved about it was that even that Micah 6:8 verse, act justly, love mercy, walk humbly, it's such a picture of your whole life. And this album for me and these songs really were my way of sharing not just the love mercy songs, but also the act justly songs, and not just the act justly songs, the way we behave and our, the way we relate to each other, but also the walk humbly songs, the songs that deal with growing and missing the mark and repentance and trust and faith. And I just love that. I love that whole picture, and that song came at the end to give even language for the album, and as a whole was really special.
'Cause there's no weapon stronger than your love. There's no weapon stronger than your love.
How timely? I know that this has taken 2 years to get done in light of all that's been going on in our world. But that said, God's timing is, of course, always perfect. So this gets released now, the second month of a new year. and we're still going through quite a bit.
One of like my personal rules for albums, like I won't share a song that hasn't actually helped my real life. And one of the things that you mentioned the timing of it. Nothing ever happens when you want it to happen or the way you want it to happen anyways. Like my life is not like that. I have 3 kids. Every morning is like, there's not enough time. We're late for school. Eat your bread. You're just like at times scrambling, at times at peace, at times like, and for me, these were the songs from my everyday that helped realign my heart to worship, and also the songs that I sang just in my heart as I was feeling overwhelmed and not knowing what the future would hold. And so for me, it's just it's weird to release a record in the middle of the world the way it is, but it weirdly feels appropriate because that's when it was written, a lot of it.
A mighty fortress, a shield around me.
What's your favorite song today, at least, on the new project?
Today it's As For Me. And I love that song because it is just a reminder, like I'm in my house right now. Like there's a lot of things in the world I can't control, a lot of things I can't directly touch and impact, but something that my wife and I, Meg, we just know and we've realized like we can have a say on what this house believes and the way we treat each other and the virtues that we instill in our kids and behavior we model for them. So like I know everyone's making a lot of choices out there, but the Barretts, as for the Barretts in this house, like we're going to serve the Lord, and that's been it's been a challenge at times and an encouragement at other times, and also like the realization of we can decide where we point our affection today.
Act Justly, Love Mercy, Walk Humbly is available this week wherever you get your music. And for more stories and conversations like this, be sure to catch an all-new edition of Studio 5. You can find it on the CBN News Channel tonight at 8:30 Eastern Standard Time. Coming up, she considers it a calling from God, a nurse traveling from hospital to hospital to help out during the COVID-19 pandemic. We're going to bring you her story when we come back. Please stay with us.
Christians around the world are standing with the Israelis. But why? In CBN's free magazine, Friends of Israel, you'll discover why Christians are supporting the Jewish state, how Israel is fulfilling prophecy as a light to the nations, and ways you can pray for the people of Israel. Israel needs the support of friends like you. Call now or go to cbn.com to get your free copy of Friends of Israel.
Heavenly Father, we do thank you for the work of your Spirit, Lord God, with this movement of getting the Bible,
yes,
Lord, into public schools.
Watch The Prayer Link, Tuesday nights at 6:30.
Hey, if you're tired and exhausted all day, you can't think clearly, and you really just need a cup or even a pot of coffee to get through your day, then join me, Dr. Josh Axe, for this new series where I'm going to teach you how to transform your diet and use essential oils and supplements to get a better night's sleep.
Protect your sleep and live your best life with innovative information from 5 leading sleep experts.
If you're not a great sleeper, you can do things to make yourself a great sleeper. If you're already a pretty good sleeper, you can enhance your sleep and be even better.
Discover a sleep-enhancing bedtime routine, how to put insomnia to rest, learn how to relieve pain that disturbs sleep, and much more in Protect Your Sleep.
Everything you do better with a good night's sleep.
Wake up to your best life. Call 1-800-700-7000 to get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
Don't miss out on this brand new series.
Your news channel, your shows, the stories you care about. Anytime you want, anywhere you want. Download the CBN News app today.
Frontline Frontline workers are vital in the fight against the pandemic. Last year, we introduced you to a nurse who sailed from Virginia to New York City to help out as the virus devastated the city. Since then, Rachel Hartley has kept moving from hospital to hospital, in large part because she feels it's her calling from God. Eric Phillips returns now with her story.
Traveling nurses like Rachel Hartley get assignments where help is needed most. For nearly a year now, that has put her in contact with countless COVID-19 patients, literally from coast to coast.
Thinking back to last year in April when we set sail, having no idea we would still be doing this almost a year later. So, you know, the future's so unpredictable, but it's in the Lord's hands, and we're just happy to be following along.
Following God's leading has kept Rachel Hartley and her husband Taylor on the road and sometimes on the water. We first talked to her last year after she had taken her skills as an ICU nurse to NYU Langone Hospital in Brooklyn. Back then, she said it was a rude awakening.
Things, especially in the hospital, were just chaotic. There were so many patients, so many people dying, and it was just a really tough environment to walk into.
Thankfully, she says the grace of God allowed her to press on. After leaving New York, Rachel accepted assignments in Connecticut, the U.S. Virgin Islands, Toledo, Ohio, and now L.A.
The Lord definitely paved the way for us and has blessed us.
She says while compensated well, the mental and physical price is high. Both she and her husband came down with COVID while in Toledo. Even then, she believes God's hand was at work.
My symptoms really were just a minor headache and back pain for a day. And Taylor's symptoms then went away within 24 hours. I think the first is the sovereignty and the grace of God, you know, protected me through everything. And, you know, given that, I think PPE is so helpful.
After nearly a year and 5 assignments, the most difficult element still remains.
Overall, the hardest part is definitely the amount of deaths that I've seen. Coming to LA and seeing their surge and just being reminded of what happened in New York, you know, and being like, oh, this is happening all over again. I can't believe it. But has caused me to grow so much, you know, in my faith, in reliance on the Lord, and, you know, through the grace of my husband as well.
Rachel says she knows it's been a difficult year for everyone and offers this word of encouragement from the front lines.
I encourage, you know, people to really look back to the science of mask wearing and social distancing. And in one sense, don't go overboard either, because, you know, we need to get outside and we need to get fresh air and exercise, and we need to be in community with people. And there's a way to do that safely.
Rachel plans to take only one more travel assignment after LA. Then she plans to pursue a job as a nurse practitioner, a degree she completed during this past busy year. While she has found her current work to be incredibly fulfilling, she and her husband hope to be a bit more settled by this time next year. Eric Phillips, CBN News.
Beautiful story. Time now for your Wednesday word, and today's word is love. I'm sure I said it before, but it bears repeating. Love is a call to serve. It is a call to sacrifice, and it is a call to obey. Answer the call and spread love. It is the call of God on your life, and it's a blessing to those you touch. With that word, make today a wonderful Wednesday. That is going to do it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. You can always find more of our programs on the CBN News Channel. You can find them there at any time. You can also find them online, cbnnews.com. We'd love to hear from you. You can reach out to us and let us know what you think of the stories you've seen here today. You can email newswatch@cbn.com. And, of course, we're always available on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We'll see you right back here same time tomorrow. Goodbye and God bless.